Every year in June, more than 10 million young Chinese people sit for the Gaokao, the most grueling college entrance exam on the planet. They and their families cling to a core belief that simply passing this exam will change their future. It is the most basic social contract, a promise of merit-based social mobility. As long as you are good enough, you will have a chance. But what happens when that contract is shaken? When millions graduate and realize their elite degrees no longer seem to guarantee the future they expected? Welcome to the dark side of China's education system, a place where real learning often leads to unemployment, while fake learners possess real degrees. Look at the current reality. On the streets of Shanghai or Beijing, graduates holders of bachelor's and master's degrees from top universities are wearing the yellow uniforms of Meituan and the blue of ELE.me. They are delivering food. They are working as factory laborers. They are competing directly with workers who only have high school diplomas. Families, especially in rural areas, have poured their entire savings, even taking on high-interest loans, to send their children to study in the cities. They hoped for a life-changing transformation, but in return, they get unemployment. The enormous investment of an entire generation seems to be going down the drain. Why is this happening? Ironically, it all began with an ambitious policy in 1999. China decided to expand university enrollment. The goal was to raise the educational level of the populace and boost the economy. In just a few years, the number of universities exploded, and student enrollment skyrocketed from 1.6 million students in 1998 to over 10 million annually today. Theoretically, this was a great success. But the labor market could not keep up. China's economy, despite its miraculous growth, still cannot absorb this enormous army of graduates. An inevitable phenomenon occurred: credential inflation. The value of a university degree plummeted dramatically. If 20 years ago, a bachelor's degree holder was a precious asset, now graduates must compete fiercely just for an unpaid internship. This creates enormous psychological pressure, a meaningless competition where everyone must run faster just to stay in the same place. In top universities, students don't study to gain knowledge. They study to get a GPA that is 0.1 point higher than the person next to them. They stay in the library until 3 a.m., not out of passion, but because if they don't, someone else will. They call this Nehuan, involution. This terrible pressure turns the brightest young people into exam-taking machines. They are exhausted. They are directionless. And then graduation day comes, a day known as graduation season is unemployment season. In recent years, China's youth unemployment rate, ages 16 to 24, has been recorded at very high levels, at one point exceeding 21%. 1 in 5 young people is unemployed. These are alarming figures, sparking fierce social debate. These real learners, real testers, those who conquered the Gaokao, those who survived the Nehuan, now face the biggest wall of all: unemployment. Their resentment and exhaustion have led to a silent resistance. If effort yields no results, why bother? They refuse to overwork, refuse to buy houses, refuse to get married. They call it Tang Ping, or lying flat. While the real students are exhausting themselves on the racetrack, another group doesn't even need to run. They are the fake learners, but they have real degrees. These young people do not participate in that bloody race. From the very beginning, a different path was set for them, a red carpet. Instead of testing into public universities, they use money, a lot of money, to enter domestic aristocratic private schools. Or more commonly, they study abroad at Western universities. A system of universities exists, both at home and abroad, ready to accept these students with lax admission requirements, as long as their families pay the full tuition. These schools are, in essence, providing a service. They legitimize social status. They provide a shiny international degree. This degree is not to prove competence. It is an entry ticket, a tool to build a Guanxi connections network. At dinner parties and in exclusive student clubs, instead of discussing academics, they exchange their parents' phone numbers. They find out what industry the other's family is in, what positions they hold. A marriage between two clans might be arranged right from the lecture hall. A billion-dollar business deal might originate from a networking event. They graduate with real, accredited degrees. But their knowledge is fake. And what happens after they graduate? They are not unemployed. The best positions in investment banks, state-owned enterprises, and government agencies are always reserved for them. International investigations have exposed so-called sons and daughters hiring programs, where major banks create special recruitment processes to prioritize the children of influential figures. The purpose is to exchange these jobs for lucrative contracts and business favors. This is a systematized mechanism. This is a worrying reality. The education system, which should be the greatest engine for leveling social differences, seems to be showing signs of becoming the most effective tool for social stratification. It creates two parallel realities. One reality for ordinary people, competing to the point of exhaustion only to receive precarity, and another reality for the elite, where a degree is just an expensive accessory, a confirmation of the privilege they already possessed. When a real student realizes that their lifetime of effort isn't worth as much as a single phone call from someone else as parents, their faith in fairness collapses. China's education machine operates on two tracks. The first track is the Gaokao, public, brutal, and in theory, fair. The second track is an underground system. It runs parallel, discreetly, and is lubricated entirely by money and power. This is the world of fake learners with real degrees. Their path often bypasses the Gaokao from the start. Instead of competing, they are sent to private international schools. Tuition at these institutions in Beijing or Shanghai can reach tens of thousands of dollars per year, higher than the entire average income of a working-class family. The goal of these schools is not to cram knowledge, but to build a beautiful profile. They teach horse riding, golf, and harp playing. They organize luxury charity trips to Africa, all to prepare for the next step, applying to prestigious universities in the West. But even here, money can solve the problem of competence. There have been shocking scandals where Chinese education consultancies were discovered writing application essays, faking scores, and even arranging proxy test takers for the SAT or ACT for the Pheo Dai, rich second generation. The peak was the 2019 U.S. college admissions scandal, where wealthy Chinese families spent millions of dollars to buy spots at Yale and Stanford through the fake athlete route. They didn't need to study. They just needed to pay, while the wealthiest clans buy their way directly into the Ivy League. Another, even larger underground market has sprung up: international joint programs. Mushrooming at China's own top public universities, these programs often have much lower entry scores than the regular system, but their tuition is many times higher. Students study for 2 years in China, 2 years at an often obscure partner school abroad, and receive the foreign school's degree. This is a legal shortcut for families with money, whose children lack the ability to pass the Gaokao, or who aren't rich enough to buy a spot in the Ivy League. They still get a real degree, are still considered study abroad students, but the value of their knowledge is a big question mark. This commercialization is not just happening in international programs. It is eroding the public system itself. Universities, supposedly centers for scientific research, now behave like corporations. They are obsessed with rankings, with profitable projects. The pressure to earn money falls on the shoulders of the faculty, leading to a frightening consequence: the corruption of the teachers themselves. There have been allegations of professors forcing graduate students to work on their private projects without pay, turning students into cheap labor. More serious is the buying and selling of grades and research positions. A PhD position, which should be reserved for the most talented person, is instead awarded to the person with the best Guanxi connections, or the one willing to compensate the supervising professor the most. Money and networks are replacing academic ability. This corruption creates a backyard environment right within the universities, where real students face an asymmetrical battle. They enter the lecture halls believing they are on a level playing field, but they quickly realize their mistake. They see their roommate, a four die who rarely attends class, always pass with high grades. Why? Because his parents just donated a new laboratory to the department. They see scholarships meant for poor and hard-working students fall into the hands of students from well-connected families who meticulously forge their income records. More important than scholarships is the race to join the party. Party membership is a golden ticket for a future career in the state system. And in this race, academic ability often ranks behind Guanxi. Students who actively build relationships with the department leadership, those whose parents put in a word, are given priority consideration, regardless of whether their achievements match those of the hard-working bookworms. This injustice doesn't stop at scholarships or graduation. It goes straight into the labor market. There, real students face the vortex of unemployment, while the Nepo Babies, children and grandchildren of officials, already have jobs arranged for them. State-owned enterprises, banks, and even large private tech companies all have what are called recommendation lists. These are internal recruitment drives, never publicly announced. These positions are filled by the children, grandchildren, or relatives of high-level leaders and government officials. A real student must submit hundreds of applications and pass 5 or 6 stressful technical interviews to get a job with a precarious starting salary. A Nepo baby just needs one dinner meeting attended by their parents to walk straight into a management trainee position with a clear promotion path. This system of fake learners with real degrees and Nepo babies isn't just robbed deserving people of opportunities. It is creating a future leadership class that is weak in competence. People who sit in important positions are not there because they are good, but because they are someone's child. They run businesses and organizations using networks, not ability. This creates a vicious cycle. Incompetence is protected by privilege, and privilege breeds incompetence. This is a rot from within, a colossal waste of human resources. And it poses a frightening question. When the truly talented are eliminated, who will shoulder the future? When the social contract is broken, trust dies. In China, the collapse of faith in the education system is creating a deep-seated cynicism. It sends a clear message to the millions of real learners. Your effort is meaningless. Your hard work is a joke. The social contract, the promise that as long as you study hard, you will have a future, that promise has been unilaterally canceled. And from this despair, silent resistance movements have been born. This disillusionment began with Tang Ping, or lying flat. It is a conscious withdrawal from the meaningless race. I will not work overtime. I will not buy a house. I will not get married. I will not have children. I will only do the bare minimum to survive. It is a refusal to be a battery powering a machine that does not care about them. They refuse to participate in the fierce Nehuan Involution competition, where they know the victory is already reserved for the privileged. But as the situation worsened, when even lying flat became difficult, a new, darker term emerged. Bai Lan, meaning let it rot. If lying flat is passive resistance, Bai Lan is active surrender. It is the conscious acceptance of failure. If I can't win, I won't even try anymore. I will let everything decay. Graduates, instead of trying to apply to large corporations, accept temporary jobs. They no longer care about their careers. They seek immediate gratification. They completely abandon expectations of a better future. This is a socio-psychological tragedy. A generation, the best educated in the country's history, is actively choosing mediocrity because they believe the system has given them no other choice. This waste comes at an enormous economic price. China has invested a vast amount of national resources to build universities, pay professors, and subsidize tens of millions of students to create 10 million bachelor's and master's graduates each year. This should have been their greatest demographic dividend, an army of intellectuals ready to drive the economy, transforming it from the world's factory into a high-tech powerhouse. But that machine is jammed. The money has been spent. The degrees have been awarded. But where is this army of intellectuals? They are driving food deliveries. They are making coffee. They are lying flat in tiny rented rooms. This is a misallocation of human resources on an unimaginable scale, a severe waste of talent. Meanwhile, key positions in the economy are being filled by incompetent fake learners, those who run businesses based on Guanxi connections rather than efficiency. The economy may still be growing, but beneath the surface, the most important gear, the people, is rusting and misplaced. The rot from within is beginning to affect the entire machine. And when lying flat or letting it rot is not enough, there is a third, most drastic option. Runxue, or the run doctrine. Run is a homophone for the English word run. This is an underground movement where young people, often the most talented among the real learners, are making detailed plans to leave the country permanently. They no longer believe in reforming the system from within. They believe the only way to win is to stop playing the game. They secretly study foreign languages. They seek ways to transfer their credentials. They hunt for skills-based immigration programs in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, or any country willing to accept them. They accept abandoning their families, friends, and culture. They accept starting over from scratch in a foreign land, even accepting second-class citizenship, just to exchange it for one thing: a level playing field. A place where their efforts are rewarded based on merit, not on family background. This is a vote with their feet. A painful brain drain. The best and brightest, the very people the country needs most for innovation, are the ones trying the hardest to leave. The final irony is this: while the real learner talents are desperately finding a way to run, the Nepo baby class has already run long ago. They don't need Runxue. They are global citizens. Their families moved their assets abroad long ago. They already have property in London, in Vancouver. Their children have second passports. For them, the fake learner degree and the reserved position in China are just tools to continue accumulating wealth. That wealth, sooner or later, will also be moved across the border. This system is creating a deadly paradox. It strangles its most loyal talents, forcing them to leave. Meanwhile, it nurtures and empowers an elite class that has no loyalty to anything but money. Both groups, for completely different reasons, are abandoning the country's future. One group out of despair, the other out of greed. We are witnessing a deadly paradox. A system that strangles its most loyal talents, forcing them to leave out of despair. Meanwhile, it nurtures and empowers an elite class that inherently has no loyalty beyond money. Both groups, for completely different reasons, are abandoning the country's future. This is not just a brain drain. This is a toxic blood transfusion, where the good blood is drawn out and bad blood is pumped in. So what happens when a national body must operate with this bloodstream? The first answer is denial. The system does not sit idly by watching the symptoms of Tang Ping lying flat. Bailan, let it rot, and Runxue, run doctrine, spread. The first reaction is criticism. State media outlets begin publishing editorials, condemning young people as lacking fighting spirit, selfish, and lazy. They call on the youth to eat bitterness, endure hardship, to contribute, to be grateful. But this criticism coming from a system perceived as unjust, backfires. It only makes the young people more resentful. They feel not only abandoned, but also insulted by the very people who benefited from privilege. When criticism fails, control measures begin to appear. To counter Runxue, applying for and renewing passports is made intentionally more difficult. Administrative barriers are erected. Banks tighten regulations on transferring money abroad. But these measures, once again, only hit the real learner class, those who are talented but without family connections. They are the ones who need to save every penny to prove financial standing. They are the ones who need passports to apply for scholarships. As for the Nepo baby class, they already have second passports. Their assets have long been overseas. This control only deepens the inequality. It blocks the escape route for the talented, while widening the gate for the elite. In parallel, job creation policies are rolled out with great fanfare. The government promotes student entrepreneurship programs, calling on millions of graduates to go to the countryside to build their hometowns. But this is a band-aid solution. Students trained to be AI engineers and financial experts are now encouraged to return to their villages to grow mushrooms or open a startup bubble tea shop with an extremely high failure rate. These jobs do not solve the root of the problem, the shortage of high-quality jobs commensurate with the training level of millions of graduates. It's like trying to treat an arterial wound with a small bandage. The failure of these measures pushes society onto a dangerous trajectory. The first and most obvious macroeconomic consequence is getting stuck in the middle-income trap. A nation can only escape this trap by transitioning to a knowledge and innovation-based economy. But how can innovation happen when the most talented minds are delivering food, and the leadership positions for innovation are given to incompetent fake learners? This massive waste of talent, combined with incompetence protected by privilege, is the perfect formula for extinguishing growth momentum. The economy might still operate, but it will lose its creative capacity, its core competitiveness. The second consequence is even more profound, the collapse of social trust. For decades, education, and especially the Gaokao, was the final safety valve of Chinese society. It was the promise that no matter where you were born, as long as you were smart and hardworking, you still had a chance. But when that safety valve is disabled by money and Guanxi, that promise shatters. This rupture is not just between the people and the authorities. It is a rupture between the people themselves, a deeply polarized society where the real learner class feels betrayed and the fake learner class lives in a bubble world, completely detached from reality. The inevitable result is a cycle of social instability. On one side, the super-rich, the Nepo Babies, continue to use privilege to accumulate more assets and move them abroad. They are not investing in the country's future. They are gutting the country. On the other side, the educated middle class, who should be the pillar of society, are now impoverished, hopeless, and pushed onto a path of passive resistance. This disparity, this blatant injustice, is a powder keg. It may not explode immediately, but it is smoldering. The danger lies not in a protest, but in the silence. The silence of millions of the most talented people who have chosen to lie flat, let it rot, or run. This is an irreplaceable loss. Once this generation loses faith, no economic policy can buy it back. Therefore, this is no longer an education crisis. This is a crisis of the nation's very soul. A system that spends enormous resources to train its brightest minds, only to watch them lie flat, let it rot, or try every means to run away. Can that system call itself sustainable? Or is it just counting down time, waiting for an inevitable fracture, when an entire generation that was supposed to build the future is instead busy trying to escape the present? Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoy this type of content, please hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss our next video.